Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Episode 34. Shri Mahaswami, the Sage with Eyes of Light, the Diary of a Seeker of Truth. Dr.Serge Demetrian. Dear devotees, now we shall listen to the second section of Part 2 of this divine book under the subtitle The Lotus Pond. Karveti Nagar, Monday 27th September 1971. I am free. I am free. This morning I arrived late at 6:30 a.m. to the hermitage but was in a happy mood. I was simultaneously being pushed and pulled to the hermitage. Shri Mahaswami was about to finish his morning bath and was dressing in his orange cloth. I descended quickly to the last step on the northern side in order to touch the water before he had come out. Hardly had I stood up than I remained frozen with the eyes directed towards Shri Mahaswami at some 5 meters from him on the same step. He had stopped and stood straight, facing north by northeast. I could concentrate easily, almost instantaneously. I immediately perceived that I was inhabited by a significant golden being. Was it a certain form of Shri Mahaswami? For a long moment, only this figure existed. There followed a short resumption of my old body with a furtive look at Shri Mahaswami, just in front of my physical eyes, and then another being visited me, Adi Shankara, the great Acharya, as he sits in his shrine at the Kamakshi Amman temple in Kanchipuram. The one difference being that instead of being black, the great Acharya was changed into liquid, boiling gold, which, however, I felt as if it were cold. That would explain why this body, my temporary body, was not burnt. What followed was a short struggle against the so-called normality of my terrestrial body that tried to reassert itself. A look towards Shri Mahaswami fortified me. He had not moved from his step, and with the fingers crossed, his eyes stared in the void. Suddenly, without even having invoked her, the great goddess appeared, formed out of tender white light. She was clearly a living being. In my old body, every muscular contraction or effort feeling had faded. The mind was almost annihilated, and finally the individuality had perished. The great goddess only existed alone, white, a sun of snow crowned by caressing sparks. Quasi-normality reinstated itself for a short interval, enough time for a quick look towards Shri Mahaswami. He sat with the hands joined in prayer, the eyes staring into the void, the face totally turned towards me. He seemed concentrated as I have rarely seen him, a tense steel blade whose vibrations were in harmony with the universal ether, Akasha. I restarted the plunge inward, trying to renounce the quintuple sheaths, then to relax and to call by their name the great goddess and Shri Mahaswami. Swamiji's name, Shri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, who had the advantage of being simultaneously Shiva and the great goddess. The queen of the universe appeared clearly just as she was in her image in the Kanchipuram temple. However, this time she seemed to be in a warlike mood. I heard without any doubt a voice that spoke directly to my heart. I am the force of all the gods, all the ones you call and adore, are in reality me. All draw the power from me. I like it. It is my will. It is a must that you should be mine only. I joyfully accepted. In fact, no other outcome was possible, For who can oppose the will of the Lady of the Universe? It was also my recent conviction. Unity with Ishvara, or better in Ishvara, was my reply. The goddess waited with divine patience there in front of me as I decided whether to go inwardly or not. Well, I will dive. I started by bringing the image of the goddess into my heart so that she should replace the I consciousness and even the image of the little sun that frequently lingers in my chest. This demanded a gigantic effort. By the grace of Sri Mahaswami and of the goddess, I succeeded for a few instants. God, the Lord, Ishvara, took possession in totality of me. I was no more, not even the old, this one. The responsibilities were shattered, the fears perished, the plans and the worries were finished, the problems dissolved and the memories annihilated. The goddess only, who is Sri Mahaswami, or Sri Mahaswami, who is the goddess, spoke from now onward, as well as looked, moved, and thought across the 5 sheaths of the body. I was overwhelmed by a sentiment of total effortlessness, entirely enveloped by a limitless joy. I am free. I am free. I had the feeling. For a trace of individuality still subsisted, that a tiny step would have been enough to pass forever beyond every form and all images towards the infinite ocean of the absolute truth as pointed out by Advaita. Had I or not Advaita Vasana engraved on my forehead by Ishvara, the Lord? He only, as the Guru or the great goddess, could have cut the strings, the spider's web which seemed to block the interior ether from uniting with the exterior one. Well, quite simply, Ishvara did not want it. Who knows, but for him, if the earthen pot of the body, not yet sufficiently hardened, would not have burst under the weight of so much happiness. The facts are there. Image that had dominated me right up to the point of replacing me was the great goddess. White, sun-crowned by kerosene sparks, she disappeared as quickly as she had appeared. The mind, the feelings of the body soon come back. The old individuality had hardly returned when it ordered the physical eyes to open slowly. I could thus observe that Sri Mahaswami, who had led and protected me, had just stood up. With an alert sense of pace, he strode up the stairs 2 by 2. For sometimes he forgets that he cannot see, and without turning his face, he entered the hut and the door slammed shut. I was immobilized on the last step of the reservoir, facing the stony and insipid reality of the daily life. I retired back to the mill at midday to eat and rest. I needed a break, as I vaguely felt the day was not yet over. Normally, Sri Mahaswami would have retaken charge of me for a while to purify me so that the just lived wonders could be stored in the shelves of the nervous system. Perhaps he would create another event. I did not regret the ample meal I took earlier as a precautionary measure. This time, 3 supplementary trials, all unexpected, were in store for me. The first was another encounter with Corvus Black Magicus, one of my declared enemies. I had a few more, but I always thought that this person did not deserve much attention. He is a strange individual, one of those who loiter now and then round the hermitage. He is some 65 years old, thin, with the black eye of a magician and a cutting and crooked nose which almost touches the mouth with its lips pursed out of malice. He is a hyper-pure, wearing ostensibly large brightly colored religious marks painted on his forehead. Once he had surprised me and had thrown on me a full bucket of the foul-smelling content of his dark heart, no doubt with the intention of making me submit to him. Since then, when I see him from afar, I strike him down with the lightning of the great goddess name. In front of the wall of flames that is erected round me, he is too weak. Today, in the afternoon, as soon as I started my pradakshina round the hermitage, he followed me, calling loudly and repeatedly, "Brother, brother, sir." To start with, I did not slow down, but then I stopped as he was becoming insistent. I waited for him resolutely and without looking at his eyes or uttering any word, but with a stern visage. I asked him through a gesture what he wanted. Corvus Black Magicus stopped, speechless. I sent him back by an energetic sign of my hand. I had just finished the round when the postman came and handed me an official envelope of the Madras University. I was not in the habit of reading my letters near the hermitage. This time, Sri Mahaswami being still in the hut, I sprinkled a few drops of water from the pond on the letter in order to purify it. I offered it to him and then opened it. It was a minor trouble concocted by a low-grade official who belonged to the tribe of those who believe that the less power one possesses, the more one wants to be respected. In not being loved, they create difficulties for others by imposing themselves with unimportant details. I lost some time considering various responses. I started walking round the reservoir and the mind regained its calmness only after a second round. And then I had seen from far Sri Mahaswami heading to his favorite stone on the last step of the lotus pond for the evening bath. I quickly approached. When, having arrived quite near Sri Mahaswami, the third trial of the day began. A man from Madras who was reputed for his devotion to Sri Mahaswami previously had a friendship with me and now had become, alas, an enemy. He took 3 foreigners to the darshan of Sri Mahaswami. Similar to Corvus Black Magicus, this individual possessed the doubtful talent of suffocating the one he wants to draw to him by the foul-smelling content of his soul. As he had surprised me unprepared, I was visibly shaken by the greasy smile of his greeting. I rushed through a series of pradakshinas round the hermitage while building a fence of divine names round me. In between this event, Sri Mahaswami, who had come down to the lake, had just finished his bath. I decided to approach him, but the morning meditation had diminished my defense capabilities. On the field of battle, the position was not favorable for me. Corvus stood on the northern side to Sri Mahaswami and the individual from Madras on the southern side. I felt a heavy headache. Surely both had united and were assaulting me, having taken advantage of my weakness. Sri Mahaswami perceived immediately the danger. He turned towards me as I stood at his back. In a surprising gesture, he showed his right foot, pearly brilliant, then the left foot. I understood and took courage. I desperately called on the name of the great goddess. Alas, without much success this time, I was exhausted and both enemies had joined their malefic forces. I was helpless and turned towards Swamiji, who seemed calm. Suddenly, the man from Madras passed in front of me, dragging his 3 foreigners. He pushed them in a car and they all left. As to Corvus, seized by a sudden haste, climbed the flight of stairs in large strides and left, almost running on the road to the village. From that moment I did not see him again near the hermitage. I heaved a sigh of relief. Later, while I prostrated to take leave, I stood a little longer in front of Sri Mahaswami. He showed me his right hand and he shook his head in his inimitable movements of approval and of assurance. "Do not fear, I will take care," he seemed to say. I discerned a light smile in the down of his short white beard. I went to the mill earlier than usual. Swamiji did not retain me at the hermitage and I felt that I should not sleep there that night. Before going asleep at the mill, I had the time to rethink my day. It was like an ancient Greek tragedy. The law of the three unities was respected. Unity of time, today. Unity of place, the flight of stairs of the lotus pond. Unity of action, the play of Ishvara, the great Maya wind. It was a two-act play. The first one divided in three parts, followed by a brilliant ending. The general atmosphere had been that of sweetness, of liberty, of happiness, everything in a bath of light. The second act, once again, three parts in an atmosphere mostly of darkness with a short conclusion. In addition to the vintage tragedy, a single protagonist, Ishvara, who was acting in the heart of all. I remembered the words of the Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara resides in the heart of every being. From there, know it, O Arjuna. He makes move all the beings as if perched on a wheel of the potter through his Maya. Later, lying on my bed, I was dreaming on the ocean of infinite. There is no shelter for the illusion of diversity and change. There is no haven for the transitory goodness. There, no corner for the passing badness. There is only stability in limitless felicity. It is strange that we have in our hearts at least the entry door to this ocean, and yet we are unable to attain it by our individual will. Still, in my own estimation, the first act of today's classical tragedy could bring us nearer to this marvelous door, or at least would convince us that this gateway indeed exists. Devotees, we shall continue to listen to the lotus pond in the coming episode, bowing at the holy feet of the Gurus. Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara. Jaya Jaya Shankara.